Hello my fellow humans. I'd like to introduce you to my Patreon page. It has extra videos that you will never see on YouTube and series that will also be exclusive to Patreon. If you would like to burn your eyes out watching even more videos, go to the link in my description. Thank you for your time.
Good thing this random hostess knows who Dr. Ratna is. What would the officers have done if she didn't? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad this actor got paid to do some pointing, but that doesn't make the sequence of events any less confusing.
Man, I love how he straight up admits to being so incredibly stupid that he's confused by this very simple scene. The officer dudes obviously just gave the hostess a description of the doctor and she pointed them to a woman who matched their description. That's it.
Tadi juga sudah mau selesai.
Just finishing? She still had bread left.
Skip.
Apakah saya ada berbuat suatu kesalahan?
Tidak, tentu saja tidak.
Then could you at least give her a hint as to why you've abducted her? Okay, I'm guessing the military doesn't want to cause a panic, but this guy seems more interested in creating tension for us than in making sure this poor woman doesn't feel like she's about to be executed for an overdue parking violation.
Okay, there are two main reasons why they wouldn't tell her on the trip to the lab. One is what you mentioned, them not wanting to start a panic. The second reason is that it's simply easier to show her what's happening than to tell her.
Walking. Excitement?
Pointing things out on the screen. Pointing things out on the screen. Pointing things out on the screen. Comedy?
This is a cool visual for the audience, but why is the professor of mycology doing this? Sure, she would be there to review the results, but shouldn't a pathologist or an upholsterer be the one to check the corpse stuffing?
No, they brought her in to examine the fungus because she's an expert on fungi. It's a very simple concept, but I'm not surprised you're failing to understand it. As for the cringe-worthy little joke you made about the corpse stuffing, cringe-worthy jokes are worthy of cringe. And sins.
Choosing to own a couch of this color.
Choosing to point things out on the screen.
Polisi datang, perempuan itu mencoba menyerang dan terpaksa harus ditembak.
In the f***ing head? Admittedly, I don't know anything about the Indonesian police force, but I would hope that in almost every situation, a bullet lobotomy is an option number one.
Yes, in the head. In the eyes of the police, a woman completely lost her mind and was trying to murder them all, so they defended themselves. How is this a sin?
Saya telah menghabiskan waktu hidup saya untuk mempelajari hal ini. Tidak ada obat dan tidak ada vaksin.
Yeah, but until today, you also thought there was no way the cordyceps could live inside a human body. So isn't there at least a chance that this new strain could have some vulnerabilities?
Yup, but her point is that their current science does not have any sort of remedy. How is this so difficult for you to understand? It's giving me secondhand embarrassment.
Jadi apa yang harus kami lakukan, Bu?
Bom seluruh kota dan seluruh orang yang ada di dalamnya.
Look, I know this is deliberately extreme to put the fear of fungus among us, but who goes from 4 deaths and maybe 14 cases unaccounted for to bombing an entire city? Those 14 missing people may not even be infected. There's playing it safe, and then there's blowing up the planet to make sure it doesn't get hit by an asteroid.
I love how you say all of this while ignoring the fact that she is absolutely correct here. They didn't decimate the city, and you know what happened? Society across the planet basically all collapsed. Why are you sitting a character for being right? Like, yes, I get that it's extreme, but that's because the situation they're in is also extreme. Drastic situations call for drastic measures.
Do I look like I'm infected?
Judging a cordyceps by its cover, it's what's inside that counts, Ellie.
Judging a show by your shallow, surface-level first-grade observations. It's paying attention that counts, Aaron.
She made it through the f***ing night.
It doesn't matter.
But I mean, it kind of does, right? Man, Joel's pessimism is really starting to take a toll on Tess. And I really think she was on the fringe of figuring something very important out here.
Great job with understanding what you're watching on screen, Discount Jeremy. I'm so proud of you. You actually understood the scene. Now, I am a little confused as to why you added a sin for it, seeing as it's not a sin, it's just characterization, but at least you're incapable of understanding some things.
Is it chicken?
Whatever it is, I have very serious doubts there's a refrigerated section in Ellie's backpack, so it's most likely a future case of food poisoning.
It's been in her backpack overnight. That's it. You're acting like it's been in there unrefrigerated for days or something. Seriously, do you really think chicken will give you food poisoning after a matter of hours? Come on, dude. I've eaten far worse than that and been totally fine.
Whatever happened to me is the key to
finding the vaccine. That's what this is. We've heard this a million times.
Okay, Joel, professor of mycology, Texas Miller. But have you ever heard this from someone who is living proof of immunity? Or at the very least, someone who survived after being bitten for longer than you thought possible?
Wait a minute. You just said longer than you thought possible. Clearly, Joel is considering the possibility that Ellie is simply more resistant to the fungus than most people, but that doesn't mean she's fully immune. Joel is a pessimist, but he's not stupid.
Also, why are Joel and Tess so surprised that's what this is? She's a 14-year-old kid who appears to be immune to bites from the infected. How could they not know she was going to be used to help find a cure? I guess that Tess just said her and Joel aren't good people, but they're fairly smart people, right?
But you just played a clip a matter of seconds ago where Joel stated that they've heard this same stuff before. It's obvious from this scene that people have attempted to make a cure in the past and it's never worked, which is why Joel is being so resistant here. How can you watch something and then blatantly contradict it 5 seconds later?
Also, why the f*** does Joel care anyway? As Tess is about to rightly say, you're not getting the gear you need in exchange for a vaccine. You're getting the gear for delivering Ellie. So what difference does it make if they can turn her into an antifungal cream or not?
As I said before, Joel is most likely considering the possibility that Ellie is not actually fully immune, but simply more resistant, meaning that, in his mind, she could potentially be more dangerous than she's worth. Look, I know that actually using your brain and thinking about things would make these videos much shorter, but they'd also be much better quality, so you might want to try it.
have a gun?
Absolutely not.
Okay, Jesus, fine. I'll just throw a f***ing sandwich at them.
And give them food poisoning too? They've already got a fungal infection, Ellie. No reason to make their situation worse.
Cringeworthy joke is worthy of cringe.
You should get moving.
Yeah, you can start by running up that road, running up that hill, be running up that building.
Discount Jeremy tries to sing in a video cliche.
Really, the pitch for Last of Us was just like The Walking Dead, but much less of the exciting dead stuff and much more of the walking.
Boo-hoo, my attention span is worse than a zoomer, so I think that a show is bad if people aren't punching each other every 30 seconds. Jesus, what do you want the show to do? It delivers action scenes in pretty much every single episode, but there are also scenes with character work and scenes to demonstrate the change over time, which also happens to show the characters traveling a lot. How is that a bad thing? It's not boring at all, and it's not poorly made, so you're sitting this for no reason.
Long way or short way?
I mean, it's the long way or the we're f***ing dead way.
Which makes me wonder why Joel suggested the we're f***ing dead way.
Because he might think that they would have a chance at not being dead if they went that way? I mean, if he suggested it, then it kind of has to mean that's why he suggested it.
How did you get bit?
You know the old mold in the QZ? Didn't think there was going to be anything in there, and then one just came at me out of nowhere.
I feel like there's a lot more to Ellie's origin story than we're being told, and I hate being teased like this. The main story confidently progresses on, proud of the seed it's planted, while I just feel left behind.
So your argument here is that the show should just tell us every single thing about a character's backstory in the second episode we spend with them, rather than giving up pieces of the story naturally over time. Do you guys see why I say that the TVSins people aren't legitimate TV critics? This argument is one of the dumbest they've ever made. Instead of moving the story forward at a natural, smooth pace, they want the characters to have a forced conversation where they reveal every single detail of their past lives to each other, which is something that would absolutely never happen with the characters the show has established. Jesus.
I mean, you got some balls on you, sister.
Using the male reproductive parts as the symbol of courage.
Skip.
The ones with split open heads that see in the dark like bats?
Wouldn't this be a great time to explain how that particular fun guy likes to behave at parties? They clearly know it's a thing, and considering it hunts based on sound, waiting until it turns up is a pretty shitty idea if you need to explain that it hunts based on sound.
In this very scene, Ellie asks if the clickers exist and they don't say anything. Clearly, they're not comfortable explaining the details of the infected to a child, which isn't a sin, seeing as it fits their characters very well. Yes, it would have been better for them to explain it, but we've been shown multiple times that both Joel and Tess have at least some level of sensitivity around children. Joel having lost his own daughter, and Tess being unable to burn the body of a child in the first episode. If you would actually pay attention to the show, you would understand this. Besides, in this scene, they all get distracted by the shriek of an infected before they even get the chance to explain.
Joe teases us with a piano-playing frog, only to never show it again.
TVSins teases us with the claim that their channel is for the purpose of comedy, only to never make us laugh.
This is so gross.
Everyone's respective orifices survive this funky pond water.
Because the water isn't getting in any of their orifices? What the hell is this sin?
part of me loves Ellie's childish playfulness, but another part of me thinks she should be smarter than to make unnecessary noises in a place that she can in no way guarantee doesn't have mushroom monsters present.
Okay, so we're gonna mention the fact that she's a child and then still sin her for not being strictly logical? Sure, because we all know that children could never possibly do anything that wouldn't be considered rational. That couldn't happen. Tell that to the kid in my summer camp group who threw his strawberries on the ground and then complained that he didn't have enough food.
Ma'am, would you like me to check your luggage?
Yes, ma'am. Right away, ma'am.
You're a weird kid.
No, this is exactly how kids work. And Joel, having had one, should really know this.
Kids play pretend. That's true. However, Joel's kid grew up in a normal society where she actually got to experience most of the things that Ellie has never gotten to experience. That's the point of this scene. We're being shown that Ellie has little to no experience with things that we would consider to be normal, everyday things, like staying in a hotel, or in a later episode, riding in a car. My point is that, from Joel's perspective, Ellie seems weird because she plays pretend in far different ways than his daughter used to. Also, this sin blatantly contradicts your previous sin where you claim that Ellie shouldn't be doing this, so I'm giving you another sin for either not proofreading your script or simply hoping nobody would catch this.
One thing I can tell you for certain, I really hope this is the last of the jump scares, because if it's not, it definitely won't be the last of the jump scare sins.
But why are jump scares considered a sin? Can you explain with evidence and a line of reasoning? Oh, you can't? Then why did you keep this in the video?
Kicking a person while they're dead.
Pointing things out while I'm watching them at the same time.
Come on, it wasn't that bad.
You try climbing 10 floors with our knees. See how you feel.
Then may I be so bold as to suggest using your feet for the next flight?
It's a bit of a mess, so I'm gonna need a few minutes.
Feel free to take this time to bond or create further tension between yourself and your co-lead, whatever feels natural.
What is this sin for? He mentioned how the point of this scene is to further develop the relationship between the two main characters, and if that's supposed to be the sin here, I can confidently say that it's not a sin. He also mentioned the scene feeling natural, so if he's trying to imply that it's not natural, he's full of shit because it does feel natural. And if he's not trying to argue either of those things that I already addressed, then what's the point of this sin? It's just a waste of time.
Did you learn to do that?
The circus.
Is the knife flipping really that impressive, or is Joel just making small talk? Because Joel should be harder to impress and or should hate small talk.
Why? Where's your evidence for that claim? Joel is making small talk here, but there's nothing in this show that suggests he hates small talk. In fact, there are actually scenes showing that he does enjoy small talk. It's just sometimes difficult to break through his tough exterior. In this scene, he's just trying to pass the time because there's nothing better to do.
How long do infected live?
There's others been walking around about 20 years.
How does Joel know this for certain? In the chaos of the apocalypse, I can't imagine there's been a lot of opportunity to track or carbon date the infected. Or has he seen a few walking around wearing an I went to 2003 and all I got was this lousy fungal infection t-shirt?
It's more likely that this was an educated guess based on his experience traveling to different places and taking note of the numbers of infected. I don't know why you think that just because a character says something, that thing needs to automatically be 100% objectively true.
I saw that guy last night.
Fortunately, Tess arrives just in time to prevent us from learning anything truly meaningful about Joel's character. Now, that might seem harsh, but some insight into whether or not he feels remorse for beating that guard to death would have been pretty powerful. And since a little birdie told me we never come back to the subject, it either feels like a wasted opportunity or one the writers didn't want to flesh out.
Let me ask you a question. Based on what we've been given for Joel's character so far, do you really think he would have answered Ellie's question in any meaningful way here, even if Tess hadn't interrupted? The answer is no, absolutely not. It's way too early in his relationship with Ellie to talk about shit like that. Also, this isn't so much a function of the writers not wanting to flesh it out as it is the writers trusting the audience to pay attention and pick up on Joel's character over time for themselves. It's super ironic how you sin exposition for being inherently bad, and yet you also sin shows for not dumping massive monologues on us about things that we could just figure out for ourselves.
What now?
Okay, she didn't say the words, but that expression had you better come take a look at this cliche written all over it. I see you, Tess. I see you.
So now you're giving cliche sins for people just making facial expressions? Jesus Christ. What's next? Ellie is a child cliche? Joel is an adult cliche? This show was filmed with cameras cliche?
He was attacked outside and crawled through the doors.
Or maybe he found a way to travel through time, which involved covering himself in jam, running through a museum, and peeling his own skin. You see, he's not really dead. His consciousness has just returned to 2003 to prevent all of this from happening. Or Or you could not assume the best and get the fuck out of there.
Also, he sins Tess for suggesting a positive possibility, which contradicts his earlier sin where he complained about Joel being pessimistic. Which is it? Do you want characters to be glass half full or glass half empty? Or are you just reaching really far to force sins out of a show in which you can't find enough actual sins to fill an entire video?
Okay, from this point forward, we are silent. Not quiet. Silent.
Also, is silent even an option? Sound works through vibration, and that's going to be caused by every clunky boot, every squeaky floorboard, and every single breath. If silence is what's required to survive here, then I'd suggest you find another route or Sandra Bullock.
Okay, you seem to be under the false impression that the clickers can pick up on the most minute amount of vibration. This isn't a quiet place, my guy. The infected are shown to have hearing roughly on the same level as a human. Maybe a little bit better, but still not enough to pick up tiny sounds.
I really feel like this is information that could have been brought to Ellie's attention yesterday!
Discount Jeremy double dips cliche.
Alright,
Well, I didn't shit my pants.
That fake ass laugh.
let's get the out of here.
Why hasn't this already happened? There's no way of knowing if they got them all, so why are they hanging around and talking as if there couldn't be 10 more ready to pop out and deprive us of what little Anatorv we have remaining?
This is one of those sins where they don't show you the full scene because it contradicts their lie. In this scene, Joel kills the last infected, they check to see if Ellie is okay, they see her injury, and then seconds later Tess says they should leave. Not joking, all of this happens in less than a minute. So they're not just hanging around, they're just checking to see if everyone is alright, and then they leave the building immediately after.
Over there?
Yeah, I know, looks scary.
That was scary. This is wood.
Being this casual about wood. This wood looks pretty old, which means you could get splinters and then an infection and then, no, I don't know, fall 1,000 feet to your death.
So Discount Jeremy is sinning the show for having a character not be scared of the same things he's scared of. Yeah, how is that a sin? You just said that Ellie is different from me, and then gave a sin. Shouldn't that be a sin off?
Is it everything you hoped for?
Asking this after only 2 episodes.
Skip.
They went inside.
What is Tess so pissed about? That the truck people went inside, or is it where they parked the truck? It's probably the latter.
She's pissed because the group they're supposed to deliver Ellie to appears to be dead. Could you do me a favor and actually watch the show you're watching?
I mean, one of them's got to have a map on them, right?
Even if they do, it doesn't mean it'll be helpful. Unless Tess thinks there'll be a giant red X that marks the spot of where Ellie was supposed to be headed.
Dude, can you please just use your brain? They were supposed to deliver Ellie to this group of people so that they could deliver her to a lab. Tess thinks that if one of the people has a map, that map would most likely lead them to the lab. Sure, it might not be clearly marked on said map, but it would at least narrow down the location quite a bit. This all makes total sense. Why are you sinning it?
She's infected.
I'm sorry, Tess, but dick move. That bite is about as close to the brain as it gets, which means she only has a couple of hours before becoming Servopolis alfungi, so she really should have told Joel and Ellie straight away.
The most likely explanation for why Tess didn't tell them about being infected before was because she wanted to at least make it to the drop-off point to ensure that Ellie arrived safely. After that, she would have most likely told Joel about it.
Throwing hand grenades into the marinade of fuel at the feet of humanity's only hope for survival.
Pointing things out on the screen.
Yes, you are. And you should be. And if you want me to like your character more, Ellie, then stop being such a fucking kid.
Admits Ellie is a kid, still sins it.
Sure, this shot, much like the last shot of the first episode, means something if you played the game. But I haven't played the game, and therefore this is just 30 seconds of unneeded post-apocalyptic building porn.
This is one of those sins that's completely subjective to whoever wrote it in the script, and seeing as the opinions of the TVSins writers are worth less than a piece of burnt toast with spoiled butter on top, this shit is dumb.
Your bird may have blinded the basilisk, but it can still hear you.